Hello, everybody, and welcome back to a Chakras and Cusswords Podcast. My name is Katherine, and I am your host. Today, we will be talking about this new villain era that is coming out and how you can step into your villain era. And it's been trending all over. Like, we really see that a lot of the reels and the TikToks and everything is talking about like villain era, villain era, villain era. So let's get into it. So what is a villain era? So basically a villain era is the time that you make fucking boundaries. In all actuality, that's what it is. It's a little wicked part of your timeline where you put yourself first. When we think about villains, we always think of like witches, like evil stepmothers. We always think about like the Disney character villains like Ursula and all of those ugly representations. But in actuality, being a villain, being your own villain is very important. It's important because what does a villain do? The villain puts themselves first. So today we're getting a little wicked with a topic that has been trending and stepping into your villain era. Before you picture like this evil, monstrous being, understand that this is about power. This is about embracing your power and setting boundaries and creating the narrative that you want to have and that you deserve to have. So let's get into it because I know people are thinking like, oh my gosh, this sounds so funny. Like, why would we want to be a villain? Well, in all honesty, like what the villain era represents, it's a timeline. It's a timeline of moments where others' expectations of who you are, what it is they need you to be, isn't necessarily who you are going to be. You're going to be yourself. And being yourself means that you are sitting in the energy of you, of your authentic self, not the self of what society is asking you to be, but the self-awareness of who it is that you need to be. So we often see that society asks us, the good person, the energy of being the one who is seen as the good person is usually the one who is the people pleaser. The villain is never a people pleaser. Like, when has a villain ever been a people pleaser? A villain is not a people pleaser, is not going to be a people pleaser, and a villain is going to stay true to what they are. The villain is selfish, and sometimes we have to be selfish. So the good person sometimes will bend over backwards to create something for others. The good person will also leave feeling drained and feeling exhausted because they've been people pleasing, they've been helping, they've been doing all the things for other people to be seen as the good individual. But this kind of relates to the energy of you choosing yourself, you choosing your own atmosphere and what it is that you want to work forward towards, what it is that you want to be centered with. We have to remember that we have to discuss the energies of what it is that feels dark in us, what it is that feels not necessarily good, can sometimes be the energy of transformation and the energy of empowerment. So if you are a people pleaser, if you are somebody who feels like you're always the good person, you are always the caring individual, you are always the one who's been there for others, and now you want to be the villain, this is the episode for you. So we want to relate this concept to energy that reminds of us of our shadow and also our energy of being able to walk away from certain situations, being able to walk away from certain individuals. So we're going to look at our Lilith energy and also our Pluto energy. So if you have your birth chart, go ahead, look at your birth chart, look to see where your Pluto and where your Lilith aligns. We know right now for the cardinal signs, a lot of people are saying that the cardinal signs are stepping into their villain era because of Pluto leaving the cardinal signs. And now they are able to really set off their energy of karmic cycles, and they're really able to live in that transformation state of movement. But I want you to look at your Pluto energy and see where it aligns, see where you can make changes. So one of the things we want to do, if you are really ready to set into your villain era, is to look at how we can break it down. We want to break it down into reasons why you want to step into your villain era, why stepping into your villain era is important for you. And this is regardless of your zodiac. You could be an air sign, you could be a fixed sign, you could be any sign. In all honesty, it doesn't matter. This is about you stepping into your villain era, regardless of your zodiac, regardless of your sun sign, regardless of your moon sign. I don't care if you're a cardinal sign, I don't care if you're a mutable sign. This is for everybody. Breaking down, are you feeling overly nice? Are you feeling like you're overly nice to people and now you want to set some boundaries and people just aren't happy? People aren't happy with, you aren't happy. You aren't happy because you are always feeling like people aren't happy with you, and you need to set some fucking boundaries. So being overly nice, in all honesty, lets me know that you don't have strong boundaries. And I know that sucks, but in actuality, it shouldn't suck, because stepping into creating boundaries might have some people a little bit upset with you, but it is for you. People aren't always going to be happy with you. You can no longer be afraid of offending people. You can no longer be afraid of telling people no. No is such a powerful word, and so many of us do not use it. Reflect on how the astrology in your chart represents like Mars, and also represents that assertiveness. So look into your chart to see where your assertiveness lies, where that energy of that fire and that solar plex energy lies. If that means in your home, like let's say you have a Mars in Cancer, so that means you have to create some strong boundaries with people, not only in your career space, but also in your personal space at home as well. Sometimes setting the boundaries with people in our home life is hard. Setting boundaries with people like our children can be even more difficult. So make sure you take that time to set the boundaries. Also, it is a time to step into the villain era where it comes with a purpose. Your purpose for stepping into your villain era makes a difference. You want to embrace the boundaries and don't apologize for them. No, I can't give you that money. You need to learn to save. No, I can't work that extra shift. I have plans. In all honesty, you don't even need to give a reason. It's just no. My mom used to always say, because I can't say no. No, because I said so. That was her famous line. I would say, Mom, how come I can't go to this party? Mom, how come I can't do this? Mom, how come I can't do that? Her line was, because I said so. Kid. Okay? And I think some of us have that guiltiness where we feel like we need to explain to people why we're saying no, why we are being the villain. We have to remember that the villain does not give a reason most of the time for the reason of why they are setting boundaries. Boundaries are big on a villain, okay? So start saying no without guilt. And that can be a little bit hard because a lot of us always feel a little guilty, like, oh, I should help them. Oh, I care about them. Oh, I love them, blah, 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 blah. But no, you need to set boundaries for yourself without guilt. Understand that you can channel your energy of who it is with your boundaries. Look at the tarot deck of the Queen of Swords. The Queen of Swords, when you look at her card, it feels vivacious. It feels direct. It feels like there's leadership. It feels like she is a little bit of a villain, She has strong boundaries. She has charisma. She's able to stay forward and move forward. So it is okay to have that prestige. It's okay to have that energy where you're looking at it, rebuilding after destruction. That is what the Queen of Swords represents. She's rebuilding that energy of self-empowerment and also areas of transformation. Discuss the importance of the energy of being true to your intuition and being true to your intentions. Another thing that we want to look at when you are stepping into your villain era, because I want you to step into your villain era with confidence. And a lot of people are saying, like, just create boundaries. Yes, just creating boundaries is the first step. But another thing to these steps is seeing how you can create boundaries that work for you. That's why I'm saying, please look at your astrology chart. Please look at the energy of your birth chart to see where it is that these boundaries and areas of transformation and your villain really lies. So look at that dark Lilith. Let you know what it is in areas of seduction, what it is in areas of desire, what it is in areas of pushing the norms, of pushing society's boundaries that makes them uncomfortable with you being the villain that you are. So look at that energy. Look at your Pluto energy and also look at your Mars for your assertiveness and look for your Saturn. Where's your Saturn lie? What is your Saturn telling you on areas of boundaries? And in these boundaries, when you are stepping into the villain, I know Disney and all these places love to make the villain look ugly, but in all honesty, some of the most villainous people who have strong boundaries and aren't worried about people pleasing are some of the most healthiest, physically beautiful people and smartest people, because their main intention is being the villain for themselves, right? And if that means that they're, setting boundaries and maybe telling somebody what they don't want to hear because they've given up people pleasing is important. So understanding that, yes, you have to have boundaries. Yes, you might be a villain when everybody says we're ordering pizza and you're saying, well, I'm going to stick to my salad and I'm not eating that. And it makes other people uncomfortable when you go out with your girlfriends and they want to know why you're not drinking, why you're not getting shit-faced drunk. Because I have a 8:30 a.m. yoga class that's very important to me. And yes, I may be a villain that night. People might think I'm not as fun that night. I don't give a fuck because I am the villain in my storyline. And if that means that I upset you, I offend you because my boundaries are where they want to be, sorry, so sad. Okay? Sorry, so sad. Let's continue. So also, I want you to look at the energy of not losing yourself with the negativity, not losing yourself with the ability to say no, because sometimes we get a little carried away and the higher self kind of diminishes while the ego takes over, especially when we are living in our villain era. We have to remember there's a balance to the villain era. There's a presence of the villain era that feels just right, but we don't want it to feel too abrupt. So we are going to use that balance. And one of the ways we're going to use that balance is by engaging our chakras. Our chakras, such as our throat chakra for communication, self-expression, our root chakra for grounding. When we know maybe we need to do a little bit of reflection, maybe we need to start to compromise because the villain is taking over, but we need to understand that our solar plex energy, our confidence, our energy of our villain, because the solar plex energy represents that villain mentality of being the most powerful. And that's what the villain represents. The hero is saving others, right? We are done saving others. We've done the hero. We want to be a villain now. We are done saving others because we want that power of succeeding in our life goals. So we are done doing that. We are done doing that energy of saving others because now we are saving the number one person, and that's ourselves. So we are going to look at that energy of the solar plex for our confidence, for our power, for our willpower, for our structure, for our fire, and light that bitch up. Also, I want to say that we do want to stay grounded when we are playing with solar plex energy. We have to remember the passion that's leading us to this, the reason, the why. How come we want to be in our villain era? The villain era is kind of intense. And some people might not like it, but remember, it's for you. It's not for others. So you are going to want to practice things that bring you back down so that ego doesn't take over. So for instance, you are going to want to practice your meditations. For instance, listen to the glow up meditation. The glow up meditation is amazing. Listen to it for your energy of glowing up, but also staying grounded. Also, I have a area of meditation for embracing the shadow, which is an area structured over shadow work. So that's a good meditation to look at as well. Definitely to connect with your chakras and mostly with your solar plex chakra for using that willpower of glowing up. Also, we have to remember that the villain era isn't about becoming heartless, okay? I know they portray the villain as this heartless creature of this heartless entity, but the villain, in all honesty, when we look at the villain, let's look at some of the villains of the past. Not all of these villains were extremely heartless. We all saw they had a little bit of a softer side. We all understood that Ursula, honey, she just wanted, a young, beautiful mermaid on her team. She just wanted that voice, but she did it in ways that were oh so bad. Instead of practicing her own chakra energy, she should have just let Ariel do her thing, okay? When we are in our villain era, we don't want to be conniving. We don't want to be jealous. A villain should never be jealous of what other people have because the villain has it all. The villain is living comfortably in their dark, doomy castle, creating their own energy of wisdom and creating their own energy of magic because they have boundaries and they are living in their authentic self. So they don't need to worry about what other people are doing. That was the problem with Snow White's stepmother. She was so jealous that Snow White was here. She wasn't the most beautiful, and that jealousy took her over. Instead of thinking it as, oh, I'm the second most beautiful, she took it as, I gotta get Snow White out of here. Okay, so that was the ego. This energy of our villain era lets us understand that there's enough energy for everybody to play. There's enough energy for everybody to have boundaries. There's enough energy for everybody to succeed. We are dominant in our own energy of boundaries, but we are not jealous. Because a villain should never be jealous. A villain should just keep on moving because they have their own wisdom. They have their own energetic alignment. They are unapologetic. And whether if it's cutting ties with individuals who are draining your energy, setting boundaries, or taking up space, people hate when a woman takes up space. And if that means that you are a villain to the men that you make very uncomfortable by you being who you are, honey, go ahead and do it. Go ahead and live in that villain era because that villain era feels right to you and it is purposeful for you. Also understanding the crown that the villain wears. The crown that the villain wears is not a hero crown. It is a crown that's set for that individual. It is set for boundaries of that individual. It's set for movement for that individual. The villain is looking for saving one person. That one person is themselves, okay? I know it sounds bad to be in your villain era, but everybody needs a little bit of villain to be right. Because you know why? Because it's all in us somewhere. Deep down in somewhere, that villain energy is there. Also remember that your villain story should be right to you. What does your villain story look like? Okay, how does she act? Where are her boundaries set? What it is that she eats, right? Look at your villain, what it is that she does, right? Like my villain loves to wear black, baby. My villain literally wears black all day. She could wear a black dress and she could just turn up any event in her black dress. She loves her dark hair. and her pale skin because she's aware of what the sun could do for sun damage, right? And she is dominant. She walks into the room confident. She walks into the room knowing that she has stuff to do. She walks into the room knowing that she's not there to please people. She's not there to run to other people's attention. My villain might look very different than your villain, right? Your villain might be more centered on maybe setting boundaries with work, where my villain is more set boundaries on not just work, but also my home life. So looking at what it is that your villain does, right? What it is that your villain does. What does your villain eat? What does your villain dress? What makes her a villain? Why do people consider her a villain? What is it about her that makes her a villain that stands out to you? Where has she let go of that people-pleasing mentality and she is living in her villain era? So write 3 things that your villain looks like. Write 3 things that your villain does that makes her a villain. Write 3 things that her boundaries upset others because she will stick to them. One of my boundaries is, in all honesty, is I have to basically create some type of physical energy for myself in the morning. I mean, most of the time it is working out, but sometimes, it could be like meditating, or it could be making videos, or it could be like something like that. My energy has to come out. If my energy doesn't come out, I become more of a villain. I become grouchy. I become mean. I become, more self-centered because I'm tired. I'm exhausted because I tend to have a lot of energy. So if I don't release this energy, it will overly, distract me. And that is kind of like my kryptonite, right? Is not being able to get my energy out. So I do have boundaries about this. Yes, I will record a podcast at some point in the week. Yes, I will go to the gym at least 3 days a week. So know what your boundaries are for your villain. Does that upset some people? Yes. I'm sure my husband would love me to cuddle with him for another 15 minutes in bed. But no, I have to get up and I have to do my things. And that might make me a villain in our relationship, but in all honesty, he's used to it now. And men love a woman with boundaries, okay? Nice girls finish last. The hero in the relationship finish last. A man will always fall for the villain. Just saying. Let's continue. So go ahead and wear that crown of your villain quite tight and quite aware. Use that crown chakra to understand the decisions you are making and your boundaries. Also remember that you're not the villain in your own story. Okay? You are you in your own story. This villain is just maybe how people perceive you. But in all honesty, you are the hero who refuses to be tamed. There's a big difference, okay? You still care about people. You still have that energy of allowing yourself to be wise, allowing yourself to be caring, allowing yourself to be nourishing, allowing yourself to be magical. But you have boundaries. You have things you need to do. You are the villain in some moments of time of some people's storyline, and sometimes of your own storyline, because that's who you need to be to get these things done, to be who it is that your villain is. So your homework project is to write 3 things. What does your villain look like? How does she see herself? How come people think she's a villain? Because she has boundaries in what? What are the 3 boundaries that you are going to create for your villain era? What does your villain eat? What does your villain drink? What does she wear? Really create some energy of who it is in your villain. Who is that villain era to you? Understanding that your villain is a part of you. It is a part of you because you're not here to tame everything, right? We could tame some things, but we can't tame everything. Some of our stuff is going to make other people very uncomfortable. And that makes you a villain. When you make other people uncomfortable, sometimes that makes you a villain. Your energy makes other people uncomfortable. And that's okay. That's okay because you are true to yourself and you are the villain in the storyline. So I want to thank everybody for listening to Chakras and Cusswords podcast. Let me know how you are stepping into your villain era. What 3 things about your villain era stand out? Put it in the comments, and I can't wait to have this discussion with you guys, and have a great day. Bye.